Hello my friends, we have come to the Maruka Isles today, a map I can only assume was lovingly named after the fantastic modder himself, to watch as the Greenskins and Vampire Coast march to battle. It's a brutal place, full of dark magic and despair, and we'll be adding more bodies to the corpse piles that dot the island soon enough. Replays with Luther Harkin and Aranessa will come next, but Cylostra and her rotting Leviathan work exceptionally well with what we're trying to showcase in this battle, the Queen BESS, and the aspect of the Shadewraith, Vangheists' Revenge. The big guns are coming out to play, and thankfully, one of the most feared artillery pieces in existence isn't complete garbage in Total War Warhammer 2. I'm not gonna lie, I had some fears it would be unusable going in, but in the right situation, it can quite literally make a huge impact. 450 range and the ability to delete elite infantry before it ever gets near you is, unsurprisingly, pretty damn useful, and it cripples movement speed of anything it hits for 10 seconds. We've seen the Depth Guard already, Blood Knights of the Sea who can carve their way through mid and low tier foot troops faster than pretty much any other infantry unit in the game, and some of the best looking models too. And on the other side waits the Savage Wa of Wurrzag and the Green Tide, with Spleen Rippa and the Bacon Riders in tow. So the Drowned have no real need to move out of their deployment, right? When you bring a cannon that can cover more than half the map in exploding rum barrels, you can afford to sit back and play defensively, while Fell Bats and Deck Dropper Bombers rule the skies. And their purpose is to keep range pressure off the Depth Guard. I'm not entirely sold on the Bombers yet. I think their DPS is honestly pretty unimpressive, but they're definitely good for disrupting an opponent's back line, and focused missile fire is the best way to kill off Depth Guard. So if we can prevent that, they should happily munch their way through quite a few angry mushrooms. But the Greenskins are Vanguard deployed and ambushing all over the map, with Wolf Riders and Spider Riders and Fast Movers who will be looking to get into the range units and artillery the moment an opportunity presents itself. And they have some long-range firepower of their own, a Rock Lobber for pasting some chaff with boulders flung from on high. Now on paper, I'd say this matchup favors the coast, simply because we know army-wide fear and terror can give Greenskins fits, but Nasty Skulkers and Savage Orc Big Guns mixed together is not a bad idea at all for your front line, because the Big Guns have Frenzy, and the Stabby Gobos can mix in with their AP and actually chunk through Depth Guard pretty quick in the right engagement. And this is going to be super important. Masked, cheap archers against the coast give you a way to quickly shoot down Depth Guard and snipe out the guns as well. Although if you're going to do that, bring the Rusty Airs, because there's no reason not to bring that armor-centering unit in this matchup. And a map like Maruka Isles is definitely going to benefit the zombies, because the little pockets of water slow down rushing infantry, and long sightlines are perfect for the Queen BESS, which has just started opening up right now, and will go directly for the Savage Orc Big Guns and do quite a bit of damage in its opening volley. And Cylostra's kitted out here to maximize its damage as well. Spiteful Shot increases its accuracy by 90 and imbues magical attacks that will go through that physical resist, and every time she casts, the Kiss of the Deep lore attribute will proc, dealing about 20 damage to every unit on the map, which is not very impressive honestly, but over the course of a long battle, with a lot of cheap spells, it could really start to make an impact. And the Queen BESS is already starting to make its impact felt, already fired 3 times, and again, another shot landing directly into the Savage Orcs, and really starting to pace them pretty nicely, down to half HP, and will continue to fire. Now, it's better against factions that have really tightly packed phalanx type infantry, like the High Elves. The Savage Orcs are in loose formation, which will mitigate actually quite a bit of the damage output that this thing would be able to normally be able to dish out. But as it fires yet again, and it continues to pound the Greenskin lines, it will slow them down by about 90% every single time it hits a unit, which is crazy. Completely dumpsters their mobility, and look at that damage output. That is what happens to tightly packed infantry. The Goblin Archers are not in loose formation because they don't have that. There's no way to actually put them in loose formation like in historical Total Wars, and that means that the Queen BESS will really be able to just absolutely trash can all these archers as they come in. And again, hitting the flank, killing about half the unit in a single shot there, and one more will probably just send them running for the hills. So the Greenskins are moving in as quickly as they can, but those little pockets of water are going to slow down all the infantry and allow the guns to fire more. And these archers, they have nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and the Queen BESS is fighting them, killing them, burning them alive, immolating them, and it's a super fun way to start a battle properly, right? Just get a bunch of these Goblin Archers and Savage Orcs feeling the heat, and it's firing pretty quick too. It's gonna miss that shot, but you can see, look at the speed of those Spider Riders, down past 10. They can't even move for 10 seconds, and I wanted to try it against the cavalry too and see maybe if we can kill some Bacon Riders and toast up some nice breakfast meat for ourselves here. not going to do too much damage on the opening volley for them. But the deck droppers are now overhead and starting to shoot at some of the Wolf Riders and kind of disrupt their formations. Goblin Archers have moved up and beginning to fire on the left flank as well, and Wolf Riders run up the center, just sending a bunch of the zombie front line flying, and they'll quickly disengage and look for another target. One thing I will say about Vampire Coast Legendary Lords is that they're really good defensively, especially Cylostra. She has a ton of tools that can kind of stop the impetus of an enemy charge as they come in, as even more of those Savage Orcs are just completely blown apart by the Queen Bess as it fires. But she has the Knight Summons, the Knight Errant Summons from Ghosts of the Past. She has the Song of Enthrallment, minus 48% speed. Another huge explosion coming in. Oh my god! So much damage. That Queen Bess is already over 100 kills right now, melting Nasty Skulkers, melting Savage Orc Big Guns, and it has already paid itself over like many times at this point. I mean, we're only a couple minutes in this battle and it's already kicking serious ass. But yeah, the Songs of Enthrallment for Cylostra, minus 48% speed in an AoE, minus 26 melee attack, means that it really stops aggression super well. And then you can just summon a bunch of crabs and cavalry and terror-causing units that really prevent enemies from getting into your back line very easily. The Savage Orcs are not having a good time. The Greenskins are kind of getting dumpstered right now, but here's a really important engagement. Wurrzag with an effigy of the Git going down on Cylostra, but she'll pop that Song of Enthrallment to slow them down, and immediately, this is why she's so good defensively. She can bait you in on that 150 armor crab, or on foot if she wants to be real sneaky, and she's a high value target. You don't want her around casting spells all battle, but immediately when you commit, Ethereal Cav summoned in front, crab people summoned behind, and whatever you just sent in gets pancaked between fear and terror-causing armor-piercing units. And then all that Greenskin Cav and Wurrzag are gonna be in a super bad spot. Charge from behind, charge from the front, tons of armor piercing, tons of armor rending, tons of damage output, and it is death for the Greenskins there in the center. And what looked like a kind of juicy target that with the Bonewood Staff and the bonus was large from the Big Guns and all of that proccing could have been really good. That's a really nice cast from the Greenskins there. It looked like it might be really good, but it's just not going to be because the crabs come in from behind and then everything just fear routes right away. Bombers eviscerating a lot of the Goblin Archers in the back line. Wolf Riders coming in and try to support, but the Depth Guard are free now. There's no pressure on them because the Fellbats have tied up the Archers for a very long time, and the Deck Droppers continue to bomb them and disrupt their formations, and this is where Depth Guard thrive, killing infantry. This is what they are meant to do. Decapitations everywhere, carving through them like a hot knife through butter, but it is time to summon Vangeist's Revenge, summon the Shadewraith, and unleash the broadside. And there is no better way to represent this DLC than that spell. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. We'll carve a path through the Savage Orc line, and it's disaster. It is just absolutely disaster for the Greenskins. Terror routes everywhere, and at this point, like, there's pretty much no way to bring it back. I mean, it will continue to go on. There will be fighting that continues to happen, but with more summons on the way, Cylostra can still summon an entire another unit of crabs, summon an entire another unit of ethereal cavalry. It's just going to be super tough. As a magic missile slams into Cylostra from behind, doing a little bit of damage there from Wurrzag. I've only played this matchup twice, once against Turin, and this one against Oakley High Def. And I've played it from the Vampire Coast's perspective both times, and I won both times. I do think that this might be a pretty difficult matchup for the Greenskins. We do know that they're pretty susceptible to fear and terror armies. The Goblin Big Bosses trying to kill the crabs there, and they're going to do okay. And they're going to continue to kind of cycle back into combat, of course. I will say the one thing that the Vampire Coast will struggle with in this matchup, I think, one of the bigger issues they'll have, is that when they cause the fear or terror routes, they can't chase down enemies very easily. Most factions in the game, certainly something like the Vampire counts, when their Blood Knights or Black Knights get into your rear and start charging stuff down, also another matchup that I would consider is very hard for the Greenskins, their Cav can run you down and prevent any of that stuff from ever rallying. The Greenskins will be able to cycle back into combat here. I do think Black Orcs are going to be kind of important in this matchup because they're the easiest way for you to win the frontline engagement, but then there's the issue where if you invest heavily in Black Orcs, if they bring something like a Queen Bess or a lot of deck dropper handgunners, nice rear charge coming in from the Ethereal Cav to make sure they don't come back, then yeah, a lot of that armor piercing missile fire from on high, you can't do anything about because you don't have flyers unless you go Azag, but I don't think Azag is really going to be the play in this matchup. So I think that the Vampire Coast does have a lot of tools for what the Greenskins are going to try to bring to the table. I think the Greenskins actually match up very well in the current metagame against a lot of factions. They're really good. Wa is an amazing ability, but it's one of those things where when you're facing an entire army that causes fear and terror, it can be an issue. And the cool thing about the Drowned and Cylostra in general is that she is the one faction in the Vampire Coast roster that can summon Cav, real Cav, that can run down enemies. And terror-causing, fast, magical attack cavalry are like exactly what you want against Greenskins, because if they go Savage Orcs, they'll side through the physical resist, and they'll just kind of run you down and make you super sad. Make sure that all the stuff that does rout never comes back to the fight. More crab summons, more fell bats and deck droppers, tying down the big bosses, and yeah, I mean, this was a little bit of a disaster for the Greenskins, but it was one of those things where it was just, we were kind of messing around. This was a bit of a meme game, so I wasn't too worried about the ultimate outcome here. But I mean, it was a nice showing for the Queen BESS. It showed it off perfectly. Literally 150 kills, 149 of them came from range, 1 of them came in melee, and then deck dropper bombers didn't get a lot of kills, but I was pretty happy with how they performed because they did disrupt the goblin archers very nicely, and then they can go into melee once they use all their ammunition too, and work kind of like fell bats that way. Cylostra, ton of kills. I think she got more than 50 with Vangeist's Revenge alone, which I'm always going to take. It really did just carve through that Savage Orc line really nicely. And if your opponent blobs up on something like an Ethereal Hero or a Morngul Haunter, you can punish it so heavily with that spell. Only issue, of course, is that it's a wind spell. The wind up on it is pretty long. You can dodge it for sure. But when it comes out of nowhere and just broadsides you into oblivion, so great. And then the Depth Guard, I mean, they did what Depth Guard do. They berserked the hell out of the enemy line and just kind of munched stuff up. Got a lot of that regen back with Hunger. No Invocation of the Heck in this build, which is unfortunate. I mean, obviously having that heal is super nice, but you get all the summons instead. So you can summon almost like 3,500 gold worth of units in a battle, which is crazy. It's super good. So good game to Oakley High Def, and I'll be bringing you some more multiplayer content very soon, and I'll see you all in the next video. Andy Pride, signing out for now.